At what point is the hype too much? And at what point does it all come crashing down? Stick around. Let's talk about it. This is Way Offsides. 3, 2, let's go. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever the case may be. Welcome to Way Offsides, your favorite sports talk here on YouTube. Do me a favor. Likely, if you clicked on this video, you're not an Alabama fan, and that is okay. I want to have this conversation with Texas fans, with other fans of different programs and traditions, so that we can get differing opinions and perspectives in here to discuss this. I want to talk about Arch Manning today, and I know this isn't typically what we do. So Alabama fans, just trust me, stick around. Let's talk about it because there's going to be some comparisons to some folks that you're going to be more familiar with. But before we get there, do me a favor down in the comment section, just leave a big Roll Tide, go whatever. Let me know where you're from, what set you're rep, where you're from as well. While you're there, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, turn on those notification settings so you don't miss anything. Got some recruiting videos coming out later today. You'll not want to miss those. That's the best way to find them. So let's talk about Arch Manning. I just was kind of scrolling around on X, and I saw a video that SEC Network did on Arch Manning. Really hyping him up. Paul Feinbaum has been very vocal and in the pro corner of Arch Manning, which is fine. I don't have an issue with Arch Manning as an individual. What I do have an issue with is potentially setting this kid up for miserable failure. And that's not to say that Arch Manning isn't capable of exceeding expectations and being as good as advertised. But as a 21-year-old kid, I get it. He comes from football royalty in terms of his family. I really worry about all the national attention that he's getting, in a sense that if he does not come out and perform at the level that everybody is hyping him up to be, what could that do to him mentally? What could that do to his emotional response as a player? It's 2025, and that is now a better understood aspect of the game, emotional impact of the game and your psyche and how that impacts your performance on the field. And with the expectations that are on Texas coming into this season, and honestly, it's not just Texas. Texas is going to be a good football team. I rag on Texas all the time, but taking the crimson colored goggles off, Texas is going to be good. They should be good. With the amount of money that they spend on recruiting, they absolutely should be good. Do I think Texas will sustain long-term success? No, because we've had this conversation. I don't feel like you can do that using NIL as your primary recruiting tool. However, that's not the point of this video. This video is to really, it's almost I don't know. I see this video and I see Marty McGee and Paul Feinbaum, and they are just hyping this kid up. It is, if you get a minute, go over and watch it. SEC Network on social media. I shared it, so you can follow it. You can see it on my X. But I just really worry about the hype surrounding this guy. You see, Paul Feinbaum has been using Arch Manning's name for months now to kind of stay relevant in a time where he doesn't have much to talk about, because most people who know football or aren't ridiculously emotionally attached don't listen to Paul Feinbaum because they understand that it's just shock and awe. But Feinbaum is now using Arch Manning as a tool to kind of generate content and views for himself. And he's doing that by hyping this kid up. And, during SEC Media Days, Manning, of course, attended with Texas and head coach Steve Sarkisian, and he discussed a lot of the hype, a lot of the expectation. And he said, it doesn't matter. I have to do it on the field. And that's a great mentality, fantastic mentality. That's what you want from your starting quarterback. But my concern happens once something doesn't go Texas's way and Arch Manning is potentially at fault. and the fan base turns on him because they are being told by all the media they consume that Arch Manning is the second coming of whoever. Um, they're going to turn on him, and we live in an age where these kids are always on social media. They're not shielded from it. They're going to see what you say, they're going to see what I say, in a lot of the sense, because it's posted and plastered everywhere. And we live in a different age where when I grew up, there really wasn't social media, so I wasn't concerned with what Joe from Austin had to say about my performance on a Friday night, as much as what my coach had to say. Um, and so I didn't have that psychological aspect to my game that I had to consider and keep reeled in. The players now do, and everybody's dealing with that. Every player, especially starter, is going to deal with that throughout the season. However, when the narrative from the media, especially the Southeastern Conference based media, is pushing so hard, it feels a lot like Tua at Alabama when he was coming in. There was just crazy push about this was going to be something that we've never seen before, and in a way it was. But we know how that story ended for Tua. Tua never won a national championship as a starting quarterback at Alabama, never won a Heisman Trophy, and then sadly his career ended in tragedy. That's not to say he didn't have an amazing career at Alabama. He certainly lived up to the hype, but in today's age, this is like almost on another level. What's going on with Arch Manning, and it's concerning that we're talking about, people who are professionals in their field and don't have the, I don't know, they don't have the forethought to think maybe I should take my foot off the brake here. We're talking about a 21-year-old. Not just, I get it. Like, I understand his last name's Manning. I know who his uncles are. I 100%, I know who his dad is. I know who his grandfather is. I 100% get it. And I hope he does succeed. But in a sense of the media's responsibility to report the news, especially sports, like, that's just not happening. It's this video. It's really unsettling because I just, especially Paul Feinbaum. You guys know, if you watch the channel, you know how I feel about Paul Feinbaum. I am not a fan. I think he is a terrible human being who has built $1 million business off of the backs of people, making people from the South look stupid. And he's used that and monetized it, and people just don't realize what he's doing to them. But you saw it at SEC Media Days with Feinbaum. He's standing there on his set. Arch Manning walks by and he gives him a fist bump, and Feinbaum turns to the camera like he's, big shit, basically. And it's just kind of like, what are you doing, man? Like, this is a kid. Like, this is a 21-year-old kid. And I get it. If you're watching this and you're in your 20s, you're like, no, that's a full grown man. Nah, man, at 21, you're basically still a kid, especially when you're in the national spotlight like this. Now, on the other side of the coin, I think if there's anybody in college football that can handle this kind of talk and this kind of expectation and hype, it is going to be somebody like Arch Manning. I'm sure that, with his uncles, with his grandfather, and everybody involved in his life, he is used to spotlight. He's used to people talking about his family name, maybe even him. I know when he was down there in New Orleans, he was super duper hyped up. So all eyes have been on him for a long time. So it's nothing new, but man, I just really worry about what happens if Texas loses to Ohio State in week 1. What happens if they lose to Georgia again? When we look at last year, every time they played somebody, a traditional powerhouse, they didn't perform well. The SEC championship game was close, but that's basically because Georgia ended up having to throw in a second string quarterback with little to no experience. When they played in the regular season, Georgia absolutely dominated Texas. Absolutely dominated them. We saw what happened in the Ohio State game. It wasn't pretty for Texas. So it just, if Arch Manning goes out here in these big time games, and looking at their schedule this year, they start off with Ohio State. Florida is going to be a much improved team this year. So you've got that game right off Georgia, and then Texas A&M. Those are the big ones that I would circle for Texas to watch. Maybe Oklahoma. But if they lose 3 or 4 of those games right there, then all of a sudden because of the hype and what the media is telling their fan base about Arch Manning, they're going to turn on that kid. And like, at what point are we worried about protecting his emotional health? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Maybe that's a little bit of too much of a new age concept for people, but I really do worry about it. And it's weird. It's weird, the hype train that they're building. I get it. You want to generalize buzz and stuff like that for the 2025 season, but there's tons of storylines in the SEC that they're not even touching right now. I mean, Alabama football just names Ty Simpson, a former 5-star recruit, their starter. Gunnar Stockton over at Georgia. Those are 2 pretty intriguing storylines, in the sense that you've got 2 traditional powerhouse teams in the last decade who are bringing in brand new starting quarterbacks. Texas hasn't won anything of significance in the last decade. And we're talking about Manning because of his last name. It's weird. It makes me uncomfortable. And I kind of hope this video makes its rounds. I don't think that it will, just because typically we're an Alabama-based channel, and so folks don't really listen if they're not Alabama fans. But I don't know. There's something about the whole situation with, especially the SEC Network, ESPN, the hype that they're building around Arch Manning. I feel like if it crashes and burns, it's going to crash and burn hard. Let me know what you think below. Am I right? Am I wrong? Am I too old to be doing this? Probably. Just holler at me in the comment section below. While you're there, make sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, do all the things. Thanks for sticking around with me. Live show tonight. I may not be on it, but it will still happen with Jeff, Chris, and Jay will. But thanks for spending time with me today. As always, say your prayers, read your Bibles, horns down, beat Auburn and LSU and Tennessee too. Roll Tide.